Vincent was rushing around the office. Today was his and Darcy's anniversary, and they had been married for a year. It could have been the happiest year of his life, if not for one thing. There was one important secret he couldn't reveal to her. In fact, he had done an ugly thing by marrying her and hiding it. Vincent knew Darcy wanted to have children very much, and he was afraid that after finding out the truth, she would not want to live with him. He too wanted to have a son or daughter very much, but as the doctor had said, he could never be a father. Vincent sat down and picked up a red velvet box from the table. It was a wedding anniversary present for Darcy. He felt delight that he could afford to pamper the woman he loved with good jewellery. As he looked out the window, Vincent thoughtfully remembered how he had once sworn not to trust any woman again. Darcy was his second wife. His first wife was Caroline, whom he married when he was just starting his business. Caroline was bright, charming, and seemed perfect in every way. However, she cheated on him, and he only found out about it later, after Caroline gave birth to their long-awaited son. Something about the child alerted Vincent. He was happy, of course, but didn't understand how two brunettes could have such a blonde child. Vincent shared his doubts with his friend, the doctor, and 2 weeks later discovered that the baby was not his. This was so frustrating that the 30-year-old healthy man developed high blood pressure. His friend suggested a full medical checkup, and it was then relieved that Vincent could never be a father. The doctor suggested repeating the tests, but Vincent refused. It was a devastating emotional blow. But Vincent was distracted from his feelings of inferiority by the impending legal battle with Caroline over their property. In the end, Caroline did not receive a single penny. Shaking himself out of his reverie, Vincent stood up and headed home. Tonight he would confess everything to Darcy. If she did not want to stay with him without the children, he would not hold her back. He loved her so much that he would let her go for the sake of her natural desire to have children. Slipping the box into his pocket, Vincent left the office. It was a beautiful winter evening outside, and a sky filled with stars and the moon. For some reason, Vincent remembered how he and Darcy had first met. During his company's corporate party at a restaurant, Vincent noticed Darcy, who was the administrator there. He was immediately drawn to her, but thought she was too young for him. However, after drinking a little, he decided to try his luck and add her to his winning list. He thought he could do anything until that evening when he approached her and asked her to go out with him tonight. Darcy, who was about 10 years younger than him, slapped him across the face. Even the music in the restaurant died down, and everyone expected Vincent's explosive nature to take over. However, to everyone's surprise, he simply smiled. "Well, all right. But I'm not saying goodbye," he said. He returned to his table and watched her for the rest of the evening. Meanwhile, his security service began gathering information about her. By the next day, Vincent already knew that the girl was not from the city, but from the countryside. She worked as an administrator and was a part-time student in the history department. In general, everything about her seemed positive, except for her financial situation. Vincent decided to focus on that. He had never seen a girl who could not be bought. However, his first attempt failed. He showed up at her door with a bouquet and an expensive bracelet. Another girl would have been over the moon with happiness, but Darcy calmly thanked him for the flowers, apologized for hitting him, and said, "And the bracelet, please take it back." "What do you mean? Do you have any idea how much it's worth?" Vincent asked. "I don't know, but it's probably a lot. That's why you should take it away. You and I barely know each other, and it's at least indecent and strange to give such gifts," Darcy replied. Vincent was so confused that he didn't know how to respond. He waited a few days and then invited her to the most expensive restaurant. However, Darcy again refused, saying that she had work and studies. Vincent became angry and asked, "Tell me, what do you want? I've stopped thinking about getting you into bed. Can we at least talk?" "We can talk, but remember that not everything in this world can be bought," she said with a smile. To be honest, he didn't have a clear idea of what it would be like, but he agreed nonetheless. Darcy invited him to a picnic, and he fried a kebab himself. Then the two of them fished together, although they argued more about how to do it properly. Nothing happened romantically between them that day, but when they parted, Vincent realised that he wanted to see her again. He tried to convince himself that she was just like everyone else for a few days, but then he gave up and went to see her again. Not because he wanted to sleep with her, but because he simply wanted to be around her. The wedding was unforgettable. Darcy was absolutely stunning, and Vincent couldn't keep his eyes off her. They had been inseparable for a year, and today marked their anniversary. Vincent parked in the courtyard and sat for a moment in the car, afraid that his happiness would disappear too quickly. As he walked inside, he saw the table was already set. Darcy rushed into his arms, overjoyed to see him. "I missed you so much," he exclaimed. Darcy greeted her husband with a smile. "I missed you more anyway." The man let out a sigh. "Why do you always argue with me?" Darcy chuckled and took her husband by the hand, leading him to the table. "Look what I have for you," Vincent said, presenting a velvet box. Darcy admired the jewellery. "It's so beautiful. Thank you. But I have a present for you as well. I promise you'll love it." Vincent looked at his wife with interest and asked, "What could surprise a man who practically has everything?" Darcy smiled affectionately and showed Vincent a pregnancy test with 2 bars. Suddenly, Vincent's expression changed and he stood up, went to the window and stared out into the darkness for a long time. "Aren't you glad?" a scared Darcy asked. Vincent turned sharply. "You have 15 minutes to pack your things and get out. Otherwise I can't be responsible for my actions. I thought you were different, but you're the same. Even worse." Darcy sobbed. "Vincent, what are you saying? We're going to have a baby. What are you so upset about? It's normal for a family to have children." Vincent was furious. "It's normal to have children with your husband, not with your lover." Darcy suddenly straightened up, stopped crying, looked at him carefully and said, "How wrong I was about you. I thought you were genuine, that you loved me, not your money." She turned and walked briskly into the bedroom. Vincent saw her take out a few things, some jeans and a sweater, and left all the expensive clothes and jewellery. As soon as the door closed behind her, Vincent sank into a chair and cried. He wanted to rush after her, to tell her that he loved her and would continue to love her, but he held back. Darcy had no right to betray him. The following morning he called a lawyer and quickly obtained a divorce. Afterwards, he withdrew into himself, throwing himself into his work. 20 years had passed. "Mr. Thompson, there are candidates here," reported the secretary. "Let the first person go in," Vincent said, looking away from the view outside the window. Vincent always personally approved the hiring of managers for his company. He now had to interview 2 candidates who had already passed through the HR department. He liked the first candidate and invited the second man to enter. "Hello, my name is Ian Thompson." A young man who looked just like Vincent's younger self stood before him. "What's your mother's name?" asked a shocked Vincent. Ian was surprised by the question, but answered that her name was Darcy. Upon hearing this, Vincent covered his face with his hands, realizing the mistake he had made. Ian watched the director in silence, not understanding what was happening, while Vincent was at a loss and didn't know what to do. This was the first time he had felt such confusion. "You're hired. Go to the personnel department," he finally said. 2 hours later, Vincent had Ian's address in his hands. He raced to the other side of the city, found the right house, parked and got out of the car. Suddenly, he felt a strange dizziness, but without paying attention to his condition, he walked over to the door and pressed the bell. Ian opened the door, and Darcy was standing in the hallway too. "Darcy, I'm sorry, but I've been told I can't have children," Vincent said. That was the last thing Vincent could say. He slid quietly down the wall to the floor. Darcy screamed, "Ian, call an ambulance!" The young man summoned the paramedics and waited for them, watching his mother carefully unbuttoning his employer's collar and stroking his cheek. "Do you know him?" he asked. "It's your father, Ian," said Darcy. Ian leaned against the wall to avoid falling from shock. Vincent slowly regained consciousness, remembering what had happened. He opened his eyes and saw Connor, the same doctor who had told him about his infertility. "Connor, what are you doing here? You're no longer my friend. Go away." Immediately, Darcy's face appeared next to Connor. She was smiling. "Vincent, don't be angry. Connor told me everything and apologized. Unfortunately, mistakes happen." Vincent was consumed with the desire to tear his friend apart, and he wished he had the strength to do so. But it's a mistake that lasted a lifetime, and I'm a complete fool. I've wasted so much time and didn't see my son grow up. I hurt you. Vincent felt a tear roll down his cheek. I never managed to love anyone. Only you were in my heart. Oh, what a fool I am. Ian appeared next to Darcy and looked at his father. Dad, don't worry. Your health is weak, but we'll still make up for it.